What's going on, guys? It's Crash Shot MMA back with yet another video this week. I was supposed to post this probably yesterday, but you know, I had another video that I posted yesterday, so it took a little bit longer than expected. But that being said, I'm finally back with another predictions, picks video. It's gonna be pretty lit. This is a decent fight night card, actually. So, yeah, I'm going to be going through the full card, giving all my predictions. Let's just start at the bottom here with Charles Johnson versus Ramazan Temirov. I don't know why the odds on this one are so close. For me, personally, this is a super easy pick, super easy decision. I think that Charles Johnson should pull away with this win pretty easily. And some people might say like recency bias on the fact of his last two wins, but I don't know. I just think that as far as a flyweight, I think his striking is very good. Think he has a really dangerous frame for flyweight. He's really tall. He's 5'9". He's got crazy reach, and he's got power, as we saw when he put Joshua Van out. So I think, you know, as much as Ramazan Temirov isn't bad, I just think that Charles Johnson is too good, and I think he's a very good. I wouldn't even say prospect. He's already ranked in the top 12, but I just think he's well rounded as well. Like, I don't think he's gonna get like destroyed if Ramazan does decide to grapple for some reason, and I think that on the feet he's just gonna be too rangy, too powerful. I think maybe he'll get caught occasionally by something, but I think he has more power. He's going to be able to land the bigger, more accurate, cleaner shots. I could see him honestly knocking out Ramazan with like a straight right hand down the pipe and just dropping him that way. But realistically, I think I'm probably going to go with Charles Johnson by decision here. I could just see him tuning up Ramazan for the 3 rounds. Maybe he drops around because, he gets like hit with some kind of a fluky punch or something like that. But I think Charles Johnson is one of the best flyweights in the rankings right now. So, say I'm glazing, say that all you want, but I think Charles Johnson has this in the bag pretty easily. But moving on to the next fight, Danny Silva versus Lucas Almeida. This one's a really easy pick for me. I think Danny Silva is going to destroy Lucas Almeida. Maybe not a finish. You know what? I'll go Danny Silva by decision. I don't think Danny Silva is, as good as some people say, but I definitely think he's a very good fighter. And Lucas Almeida is just somebody who I haven't really been impressed with recently. Danny Silva is still pretty untested in the UFC. He only has one fight, and it was a competitive fight, but I just think that Lucas Almeida hasn't really looked good in his last couple of fights, especially in the Andre Philly fight, getting knocked out. Granted, that was a long time ago, but that shows inactivity on Lucas Almeida's side as well. So I could definitely just see Danny Silva sort of skating by a decision here, but more realistically, I think he probably wins every round. Lucas Almeida can be dangerous in some situations, but I overall think Danny Silva is just going to be able to land the better shots, mix it up if he needs to, but probably just, you know, get a clean 30-27 or 29-28 decision off and potentially a finish, but I'm going to pick him by decision. Moving on, Ricardo Ramos versus Chepe Mariscal. Easiest pick of my life. Chepe Mariscal is winning this fight. And, both guys are young, but I think that Chepe Mariscal is just significantly better. Chepe is the bigger guy. I think he's more skilled, more athletic, and he's got some momentum. Like he's on a nice win streak. I think 3 or 4 fight win streak, beating guys, you know, like Trevor Peek, which is a pretty good win. Whereas Ricardo Ramos has been really inconsistent his last couple of fights, winning some, losing some. He just recently lost to Charles Jourdain, who's a guy that I don't rate very highly. And because of that, because of the size, because of, the skill factor, and I just think that Chepe riding that win streak and, being a little bit better of a prospect, I think he's going to be a lot more confident and hungrier. I think he's going to go in there, and I think he's going to put Ricardo Ramos out in the second or third round via TKO. I could definitely see it being somewhat competitive, and then Chepe drops him and finishes him. That's probably what I'm going to pick. Is Chepe Mariscal by round 2 or 3 TKO. It's a pretty good fight, I won't even lie. This is going to be one that I'm excited to watch, but I think Chepe Mariscal's just better overall, as I was saying, and I mean, he's pretty big for the division as well for being a featherweight. So overall, I am going to say that. But moving on to the next one, Austin Lane versus Mario Pinto. Mario Pinto making his UFC debut here, and I think he's going to knock out Austin Lane. Now, listen, dude, I like Austin Lane. You know, he's a cool dude, and I was actually happy to see him beat Robelis Despain in his last fight. Robelis Despain pisses me off, bro. Like, I was actually going to be really pissed off if Robelis somehow pulled off that win. But with Austin Lane, you know, he's very chinny. We saw in the fight with Janata Denise, you know, he could be winning the fight and then just get put out really badly. And, you know, it is heavyweight, so that is kind of a thing. But Mario Pinto's undefeated. I just feel like he's very young, too. I think he's like 26, 27 sort of age range. And Austin Lane's an older guy. Like, he's not old necessarily for the division, but, you know, he joined the MMA game late, and I just don't think he's cut out to fight in the UFC, or at least not fight, you know, prospects and younger guys. He probably needs to stick to fighting older, you know, out of the rankings on a downfall heavyweights, and maybe then it would be interesting. Or people who just don't have any business being in the octagon, like Robelis Despain, who literally the second you shoot a takedown on him just falls over on his back and takes a nap, basically. So Austin Lane, I do like him, but Mario Pinto, I think, is going to be able to put him out in the first round. Realistically, don't get me wrong, Austin Lane's a big guy, he's athletic, but, you know, like I've said, we've seen him get chinned multiple times. I can't unsee this guy getting slept multiple times, so I think Mario Pinto's going to be able to do it, and, you know, I just feel like he's the more athletic guy, the more skilled guy. He got into the game at an actual younger age, whereas Austin Lane obviously didn't start fighting for a while. So as much as it does suck that Austin Lane's getting fed to another guy, I think Mario Pinto's going to get this one done. And then we got one that's actually very exciting, which is Danny Barlow versus Sam Patterson. Now, I'm going to go with Danny Barlow, which I'm pretty sure is the favorite pick. Like, most people are picking Danny Barlow. But what I will say is that Sam Patterson has an underrated chance to actually go out there and win this fight. You know, I think people see that Danny Barlow's undefeated, but you have to remember that the guys that Danny Barlow beat are not that impressive of wins. You know, he went in there against Quinlan, and he did win that fight, Danny Barlow did, but, you know, Quinlan's also a guy who isn't good at all. And, you know, he also went in there against the guy with the V last name, the super fucking long one. I forget how to say it. But he goes in there and has a super competitive, close fight with him. So I just think that people overrate Danny Barlow a little bit. I do think he's a very great striker. You know, he's an athletic guy. Sam Patterson, though, he is quite underrated. You know, I could definitely see him, you know, skating by a decision and surprising some people, or maybe catching Danny Barlow with a submission. But overall, I think Danny Barlow is going to win this fight. I'm going to go with the more obvious choice, but don't be surprised if Sam Patterson manages to pull this one off, and it would be kind of cool to see that happen. You know, I always like seeing undefeated fighters lose their O. It is always pretty interesting to see that happen. So I'm going to pick Danny Barlow via decision. I'm going to say 29-28 decision. I think he's just going to do better on the feet, and I don't think he's going to be a slouch in the grappling if needed. But overall, I think he's slightly better than Sam Patterson. Moving on, though, Haider Emil versus William Gomez. listen, dude. If for people who don't know, I have some problems with William Gomez. He's kind of cooked some parlays in the past for me. But that being said, I'm picking him to win this fight pretty easily. So Hyder Emil is not bad, and I'm not gonna pretend like he's trash or anything. He's undefeated for a reason, but I just think that William Gomez is a lot better. And I think in this matchup he's going to be able to shine and really show his skill. And honestly, I'm going to pick William Gomez to knock Hyder Emil out, probably early round two, maybe. Maybe he'll get some reads on him and land a nice combination. Granted, Hyder Emil, his last fight he won by knockout. It was pretty impressive, but overall, I think William Gomez is just much sharper, much faster, and I think he's a more skilled fighter overall. I think he's just sort of a tier above Hyder Emil. I think he's almost ready to be sort of fighting to those spots that are just below the rankings. Whereas Hyder Emil, he's all right, but he's not a guy that's proved himself to be elite level in the UFC, and I think William Gomez is going to be able to capitalize on that and have a pretty clean performance in this fight, outstrike Hyder Emil, and like I said, I think he'll be able to land a solid, probably combination at the end of round two, maybe, or early round two, somewhere in round two, and I think he'll drop Hyder Emil and finish him. So either that, or he'll just end up going the distance and win pretty much every round. So I'll pick William Gomez to win this fight via round 2 KO, but maybe decision. Hyder Emil, he's still pretty good, so I could see him survive and go in the distance with William Gomez. But overall, I think William Gomez is just the better fighter. Alright, now this is the fight that I'm second most excited for on this card, other than the main event, of course. And this is what should be the co-main event realistically, if we're being honest. Get Cody Brundage. I don't know why they put this fight here. Get this fight off the card. But Nasrat Haqparast versus Esteban Ribovics. This is a very interesting fight between a high-level prospect in the lightweight division and a guy that I wouldn't necessarily call a prospect, but a guy who I think is one of the better unranked fighters in the lightweight division. So Esteban Ribovics, coming off of that impressive win at UFC 306, where he, was struggling a little bit early against Daniel Zellhuber and then completely sort of destroyed him at the end of the fight, unloading on him, and probably should have gotten the finish at some point there. Granted, it went the distance, so props to Zellhuber, and then before that, obviously, brutally chinning Terrence McKinney, as we call him. But I think Esteban Ribovics is probably the most exciting lightweight prospect for me right now. And Nasrat Haqparast, coming off of a very controversial fight against Jared Gordon that I actually thought Jared Gordon pretty clearly won. I thought that was a robbery decision. But granted, it was a close fight. But I think if you put Esteban Ribovics in there against Jared Gordon, I think he makes it a lot more convincing, or even potentially knocks him out. So I gotta go Esteban here. I think he's just gonna be cleaner on the feet. I think he's just probably gonna be better everywhere. If he does want to mix it up, I think he'll be able to have some success in the grappling against Nasrat, and I don't think Nasrat's gonna be able to really take him down or hold him down. And on the feet, or especially in sort of boxing range, I think Esteban's just going to be able to pick him apart, land much bigger, better shots, and I think he's going to be able to beat Nasrat there. Although, this is a very exciting fight because Nasrat is also very good, as a unranked lightweight. So I could see Nasrat pulling out a, close competitive decision. Either way, I think it's going to be a fairly competitive fight. But gun to my head, who do I think is going to win and how? I think Esteban Ribovics is going to knock out Nasrat. I could see it being sort of competitive through the first 2 rounds, and then at the end of round 3, he, starts pouring on the pressure and starts landing big shots, and I don't know how well Nasrat's going to be able to recover. I could see him sort of dropping him along the fence after, pressuring him back and landing a couple combinations, and then I could see him getting a TKO that way. So I will be going with Esteban Ribovics, but this is a very exciting fight, a pretty competitive fight. Definitely should have been the co-main event. But now we have to talk about the real co-main event. Just a complete, you know, just awful representation of matchmaking. Two guys who really have absolutely no reason to be in the UFC fighting each other. Cody Brundage, I'm not going to lie. I don't know why the hell they didn't cut this guy after his last fight. Realistically, dude, this guy should have been cut from the UFC. I think he's only got one legitimate win out of his last 5 fights, I'm pretty sure, because obviously, that win against Jacob Malkoun, technically a win, but realistically, if we're being honest, that was him pretending to get fouled. Same thing with Abdulrazak Alhassan. That should have been a knockout loss for Cody Brundage, but again, he's really good at acting like he's injured. Him and Henry Cejudo can probably, make a little club there, but Cody Brundage, not good at all. He's just going to sort of plod forward and try to wrestle. But he's fighting Julian Marquez. When I talk about Cody Brundage, I'm like, ain't no way I'm ever picking this guy to win a fight. But then you have to remember he's fighting Julian Marquez, so it's like maybe he could win this matchup. Julian Marquez is pretty terrible. He's 9-5 and really hasn't impressed me at all throughout his UFC career. That being said, Julian Marquez did obviously have that win against Marc-Andre Barriault, but he's getting older. I think he's like mid-30s, so I could definitely see Cody Brundage, somehow winning this fight and staying in the UFC even longer somehow. God forbid. I just want both of these fucking guys to get cut after this fight, realistically. But as for what I think's going to happen, I don't think Julian Marquez is good at all. And you know what? I'm just going to say Cody Brundage manages to plod forward and take him down in the first round, control him, and then second round I could see him somehow getting a takedown in a dominant position and TKOing him with ground and pound. I can't really see Cody Brundage or not finishing Julian Marquez. I can't see anyone not finishing Julian Marquez, in my opinion. This fight is weird, though, because I could also see Julian Marquez just knocking Cody Brundage out, against the fence or something, which, has been done to him multiple times. So I don't really care about this fight, as you probably could tell. But I'll just go with Cody Brundage here, I guess, as much as it pains me to say I'm picking Cody Brundage to win a fight. But now to the fight. We're all here for the main event: Manel Kape versus Asu Almabayev. Manel Kape coming off of that incredible performance against what's his name? Why did I just forget that Bruno Silva existed for a minute there? But, just completely picking apart Bruno Silva, emoting on him, and finishing him badly at the end of the fight in round 3. And then you have Asu Almabayev coming off of that win against Nicolau. Now, these guys are sort of polar opposite fighters. Manel Kape is 100% a striker, whereas Asu Almabayev, he can strike a little bit, he can throw hands, but realistically, he's just going to be a grappler. I'm going to go with Manel Kape to win this fight, though, and I think he's going to make it look pretty easy. Asu Almabayev was scheduled to fight Steve Erceg, and I think they should have kept that fight for him, because I think he would have fared much better against Steve Erceg. But Manel Kape has amazing defensive wrestling. We saw in the fight with Muhammad Mokaev, who's like one of the best flyweight grapplers ever. Mokaev was struggling to get him down, and when he did get him down, it was, grabbing his shorts, and he couldn't really hold him down for real. So Manel, he also broke his foot in that fight and still made it difficult for Mokaev. And I don't think Asu Almabayev's even on Mokaev's level of grappling anyway. I could see Manel Kape going in there and knocking out Asu, but I could also see Asu, surviving, maybe shooting some panic takedowns occasionally. People like to talk about Asu's Almabayev, pressuring Manel or whatever, but I just think that Manel's striking and his power, you have to remember he's a big guy for this division. He struggled to make weight before. I could see him putting out Asu pretty easily if Asu just tries to march him down and go for takedowns. And everyone knows Manel Kape for that one flying knee highlight he has. So I could see something like that opening up if that's what Asu tries to go for. And if he gets too comfortable on the feet, I think he's just going to get tuned up. Because honestly, I think Bruno Silva is just better at striking than Asu Almabayev. That's going to be very controversial. People are going to roast me and call me crazy for saying that. But I don't think this guy's that good of a striker. And I could see Manel, going in there and tuning him up on the feet. Even in the grappling, like I said, people like to hear that Manel's, a focused striker and think that he's just going to go in there and, lose as soon as he gets a takedown shot on him. But you have to remember he's got probably the best defensive wrestling in the division. You look how hard it was for a guy like Makayev, who's probably one of the best wrestlers we've seen, to take him down. And I just think that coupled with, the momentum he's coming off of with his last win, I think he's going to be able to come into this fight. He's going to be able to, kick, box at range. I think he's going to be able to explode in, assuming he doesn't get like an injury or something to his foot. I think the only way Asu Almabayev wins this is by a fluke. I think Manel's going to be able to beat on him sort of anytime they're on the feet, stuff all the takedowns. And you have to remember this is a 5-round fight. Manel Kape has good cardio. To be honest, I think Manel Kape is going to tune him up for 3 rounds, two or three rounds, and then put him out in the 3rd or 4th round and, finally put him down. Because Asu's no slouch. He'll trade occasionally, but I think Manel's just going to be much better. And once he's broken Asu Almabayev, I think he's going to set up a perfect shot and knock him out. Like flatline KO him. I could see, a big head kick, maybe a flying knee, a boxing combination. But I think Manel Kape is too dynamic of a striker, and really the only way to beat him is to be super well-rounded and have amazing wrestling. And I just don't think Asu Almabayev is that guy. So I will be going with Manel Kape to win this fight. I kind of wish, because this was supposed to be Brandon Royval versus Asu Almabayev. I kind of wish, versus Manel Kape. I wish we got to see that fight instead, because I was very excited about that for a long time. Those are the two best guys that aren't Pantoja, in my opinion, and I think it would have been super entertaining. That being said, in this matchup, I think Manel Kape's going to pick up another win, and he's going to be going right back for that, top spot in the division, fighting guys like Kai Kara France, fighting guys like Brandon Moreno. So I think this is a very interesting fight. I think it's going to be a banger. We're going to get to see some cool moments, but yes, that'll be my pick, Manel Kape via knockout. So those are my picks for the full card. Let me know in the comments if you disagree with any of them, or if you have any hot takes about this card, anything like that. And I'll see you in the next video.